originally I was gonna do a video where I kind of go through like the mixing process, and just start over kind of in that mixing process um, on a track that I've already released called Note to Self. But then I was kind of like I was feeling self-conscious about that process. So instead of going through the process completely, I am actually just going to kind of do almost like, one of those like Genius breakdown videos where they show like the, behind the mix. I figured I would do that for anybody who's interested. This is on my song Note to Self. It came off my debut album, This Might Be Healing, which came out December of last year. Got a lot more attention than I expected. So I thought, it'd be fun to do something for Note to Self, which I think is one of the more popular tracks off of the album. Probably because it's like the perfect example of what I was trying to go for, which I walked into this album going, okay, I want to make acoustic songs, but I want to make them sound as unacoustic as possible. I want them to like really feel full, almost like an MTV Unplugged session. This is probably the most extreme example of that throughout the album, aside from Overgrown, another song off of it. Sorry, I'm burping a lot. I did have a shot earlier, so it might be that. But anyways, I'm going to go through it. If you're here, you've probably already heard the song, so I'm not even going to flatter you on that. So basically, I started off the song recording it with these acoustic guitars, and this is what they sound like. For the most part, that is what the acoustic guitars sound like. You probably see the immense amount of plugins. I had kind of a different mindset when I was mixing during this process, and so like I added a lot of plugins that I probably could have accomplished the same effect with less plugins if I actually used them properly. So just noticing that, making myself humble by calling out the fact that I have so many plugins that are going on. But if you notice, as soon as I got rid of that saturation sound, like the acoustic guitar sounded so like still kind of nice, but that was what I was against. I was like, no, this song has to have a little bit more spunk to it. So I added in the saturation knob. By the way, I definitely recommend the soft tube saturation knob if it is your first time delving into saturation. It is a completely free plugin, very simple. Again, it's literally just this knob and however much saturation you want to use on it. But it is very, very nice for if you're wanting to get yourself introduced to the idea of using saturation in songs. I definitely recommend using saturation because it just makes things sound warmer, fuller. The harmonics are brought out more. I'm saying words as if I know what they mean. I'm gonna assume I know what they mean. So yeah, that's my pitch, my elevator pitch. But yeah, that's what that sounds like basically, and that's throughout the whole song. The way that I record acoustic guitars is usually I do it stereo recording. So I have these two mics. They're a pair of Rode M5s. They're like small little condenser mics, and I kind of like point them at an angle towards each other, almost like like it's forming like a triangle, and the tippy top is the two capsules. And I do that usually, and I didn't necessarily have a specific placement for it. I think throughout the whole album there was like kind of just a slight variation in how I placed it. Nowadays I am more interested in mono acoustic guitar recording because I finally have like a mic that I really feel confident in using it for that. But that was how I did it. And then I added reverb through Ascend here. This is also something that I recommend. It is free, and I use it a lot in terms of reverb sounds. It's very straightforward. Again, a knob and I just put it all the way to wet so that way I can use it as a send. If all of this sounds foreign to you, well, I'm sorry, I'm just a geek, so I bring that up. But yeah, it's free, perfect. So that's that, and then okay, then the special thing about this album is that I used a cajon, which is like a drum box. So you literally sit on it and you just pat against it and do all sorts of stuff. I am not skilled with rhythm, with drums, with anything like that. So I used a lot of simple, patterns throughout the whole process of the album. But I think just the songs themselves, sorry, I'm yawning as well. The songs themselves were interesting enough and different enough for it to feel various. But this is what it sounds like. Also, I used 2 mics on this one. I mic'd the front of the cajon, and I mic'd the back of the cajon. And so... Oh, wait, no, that's the cajon by itself. And then you probably already heard the bass. Very simple. I use Amp Room, which is a nice plugin. It is actually something that you do have to pay for, but I was like, I need it because it has really great like guitar amp and bass amp emulation. Which is very good for somebody like me who is recording in a house that I'm not the only one who lives in here, and so I'm not going to bother anybody else by trying to mic up a really loud amp in real life and, have my mom come down and yell at me. So I use Amp Room because it very much suffices, at least for me. I used Bass Rider for a while. That one also is a plugin that you have to pay for, but it's much more cheap. Or it's much cheaper, much more affordable. But recently I found that I can accomplish a similar thing just by compressing the bass right. But yeah, just keep that in mind. And then also I used this exciter, so that way it was you could hear it a bit better. An exciter usually also kind of like emphasizes harmonics, so that way certain things, especially lower end things like maybe sub synths and stuff like that, they can come out a little bit more. So yeah, so far what we have, the only stuff I've talked about so far is acoustic guitar, cajon, and bass. Yeah, and then I will go to vocals. Where are my vocals? By the way, where are my vocals? Oh, okay, here we go. So also another thing that I did for this album was I did a lot of vocal doubling because I just think it sounds a lot cooler, and it makes things sound a lot more powerful than they actually are. So here are the vocals.
Dig a little deeper, find out what you're feeling. Anger isn't healing, neither is being alone.
You can hear that it's very slammed on the compressor. That's because I literally used this parallel slam. I used a preset because I was like, no, like I want it to just slam. Straight up just slam. And it was so fun. But if you get rid of that, it kind of sounds like this, which, again, it's a fine effect without the slam compression, but that was the characteristic I wanted to go for the song. So...
Dig a little deeper, find out what you're feeling. Anger isn't healing, neither is being alone.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I have this whole chain that, again, I probably could have simplified a bit. Yeah, and these are... I'm going to take off all of these plugins currently just real quick, and then I'm going to do, like, a little bit of one vocal at a time.
Dig a little deeper, find out what you're feeling. Anger isn't healing, neither is being alone.
You can hear it's a little, like I'm like, you can hear I'm straining myself, and then this other one.
Dig a little deeper, find out what you're feeling. Anger is...
Suddenly it sounds a lot cooler. And also you notice that there's a limiter on these. This is the stock limiter. That's because of the fact that when I get to the screaming part in the song, it actually clipped at certain points, and I'm like, I'm not going to re-record this. So I just put a limiter on. And also on top of that, like, again, it was screaming. It wasn't like anything that I felt like technically needed to sound exactly there, like sound like nothing was being chopped off. You know, screaming is screaming. So wise words. Oh, also that supercharger plugin. Sorry, I speak way too fast, and then I forget what I'm thinking as I'm saying it. The supercharger plugin, I'm pretty sure is free. I do not remember ever paying for this shit. That's all I'm gonna say on it. And I think it's a pretty cool. It's a compressor, and it has this one effect that I really like. So if it's free, why not try it? I think it's a Native Instruments plugin. So yeah, definitely recommend that. And then here's the organ. There is an organ in the song. There are some things that I'm pretty sure you're probably gonna be, oh, what? So this is one of those things. So yeah, I used that because again, I really wanted the songs on this album to sound very expansive, and so I would record like a ton of like different like key parts for each song. This one has organ. It also has some super compressed pianos in it, which is where I first did the super compressed slamming compressed yada yada yada. So here it is. I loved that. I love that little pluckiness. I love that kind of dead sound of the piano. And that was what I was originally going for. And then I was like, ooh, wait, why don't I do it on the vocals too? Because that would really be cool. That'd be really kick-ass. So that goes through all that. Oh, and then obviously during the chorus when it gets to...
Better than you're thinking. Help yourself for once. Let it sink in. Process the moments that you're traveling through your head. It's over, but it's not the end of.
Like, I just thought that was really cool to add in. And obviously it sounds very much like a synth, but buried in with everything else, I think. It sounds a little bit more, I guess, realistic. I'm not really going for realism. I'm just going for the feeling. And then last thing that I think I actually have in this is the riff, the little, crazy guitar riff. So first... And that is the only cool thing I've ever played on guitar. I'm not really that skilled when it comes to guitar and lead guitar especially. So I just did that thinking, oh, it sounds kind of cool. It sounds more complicated than it actually is. So I did that, and then let's listen to the fucking screaming.
Please.
Got some Pixies, Where Is My Mind type stuff going on there. That's at least what I think of when I think of that riff. Here's the left. And then the right. I thought that was ridiculous. So I did that. It's amp room, and then I think I literally just used a preset. I've been shying away from using presets recently, obviously, because I'm starting to learn how the plugin actually functions, and so then I don't need to use a preset because I'm like, oh, I can get to that sound that I want based off of what I know of the plugin. But sometimes I use a preset because I'm just like, screw it, I want to go for some outlandish sound. And this plugin is a TG12345, which is so funny to say to me. It's another Waves plugin. I don't know if it was in this video or in another video that I talked about, but I like Waves plugins, especially as somebody who does not update their MacBook and does not update Logic, because the thing about Waves is, while their plugins are really affordable, they tend to have you renew licenses, which does end up costing money, and that depends on, like, when a new MacBook update comes, and then, in the same vein, when a Logic update comes, and so if you don't renew the plugin, or if you don't renew the license, then you don't get access to the most recent version that works with your most recent version of Logic. So if you're somebody like me who does not ever update Mac, who does not ever update Logic, then Waves is the perfect place for you, because it is, in my opinion, it's very affordable. A lot of nice analog emulation sounding plugins, pretty straightforward. I love them, and this is one of them. This was a channel strip, one of the first like Waves plugins, one of the first plugins that I ever bought. It's like a channel strip, and I really only have ever used it for its presets, or just for driving the input and then, gain staging the output so I can get a little bit of an analog sound. But yeah, I used Today Is the Greatest. Where is it? Yeah, Today Is the Greatest electric guitar sound. That's obviously the Billy Corgan Smashing Pumpkins type of preset, and so it changes it from, which is not that crazy. Like, it's not that bad, but then you add that, and suddenly it's so much more bitey, and I love that. I love it. Yeah, and I've talked about all the tracks. Basically, all that I did after that was I added saturation where I felt saturation was necessary, some compression, a lot of, let me see. Oh yeah, the tape plugin by Softtube. This was a step up for me in terms of wanting to get that kind of tape sound. A lot of people have talked about how they're like, wow, this might be healing sounds a lot like, like 90s, early 2000s, that type of sound. That is probably because of the fact that I saturated the hell out of these mixes and the masters themselves with the tape plugin. So I've really like driven the songs into that territory, not to the point where it like sounds super crunchy, but to the point where it sounds like really warm and nice and like almost cassette like, and I love that. So now let's celebrate our newfound knowledge of this song with a little clip of me screaming.
Surround the noise.
Yeah, so thank you for joining me in this experience where you finally see how ridiculous I am when it comes to mixing stuff. And I say ridiculous in the way that you're probably like, oh my god, like that sounds like so much. Yes, I lost my mind over these recordings, especially I did this entire album, like I mixed it probably within a month, all 12 songs, and yeah, imagine doing that while you're also doing an internship, while you're also doing like college classes, while you're also dealing with mental health issues all the time. Yeah, it's not that great. But anyways, that was my little genius behind the madness. Yeah, you can tell I don't know how to fucking end this shit properly. Yeah, listen to my album and love it if you can. Also, sorry for this whole video with my audio being on like the left ear. That must be so irritating. I'm not. No. Oh, sorry. You saw that I. You saw that. That I used some random thing for recording. Anyway, good job.